Here we're going to start on the Mishnah on Mem Beis and Mid Beis. That's 42b. There's a Mishnah in the last two lines, 42b. Ve'elu dvarim. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. So we're learning we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. And also for Shleima, for everyone that needs. Father and Naftali and Bela. Daniel, I forgot the name. Yankel is Yaakov ben Fega. Yaakov ben Fega.
Ademir Simcha Shalom ben Hakon ben Chana.
Hakon ben Chana, okay. So I have first name and goodness from everyone. Okay, so Elu Dvarim, the Mishnah says, Elu Dvarim Shein Chayav Alei Mishum Pigel. There's certain things, we've been learning about Pigel for a while. There's thoughts that the sacrifice is going to be eaten or burnt or sprinkled after the allotted time. That's Pigel.
People that committed Pigel, they just didn't know the time, or they intentionally, why would they intentionally split later than what was supposed to be done?
They had other plans. I don't know. It's hard to imagine why they were doing this, especially once the law is that they're not to, or maybe this is the law that you're not allowed to have plans of doing it other later than the thing. And what happens if you do that is, why spiritually is Pigel more strict than everything else? It's if someone then comes and eats it, that's where the strictness comes in. Strictness is if someone then eats it after it's been so violated that he had these thoughts, then there's karas.
He has to actually do the eating.
He has to actually eat it to get the karas. Not the making of the Pigel is not the sin. It's not the. You're not allowed to, but it doesn't. That's not the karas part. That's not the severity. It's the same thing. If anyone that eats it gets this karas, it doesn't have to do with the person that had the thoughts. Yeah. Do you think someone's going to make a Pigel and then feed it to someone else and then say, ha 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 ha?
Went on to the next.
Right.
Maybe they didn't actually, like the people who were doing the shechting, they were different than the people bringing the offering. So maybe they didn't know. And then it's a certain time after the shechting, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that way it makes sure everybody knows exactly when the offering is going to be shechted. Otherwise, they don't know how long the Pigel is.
That could be.
Maybe it's to enforce people to know, like, oh, that's right. That's your offering right now.
Right.
Is it clear that Pigel includes non-Kohanim, such as the person bringing the carbon?
Yeah, well, it says that it applies to the shechita. The owner. You're asking if it applies to the owner. I don't think it applies to the owner. I think it only applies to the ones that doing an actual service, either the shechita, which he may not be a Kohen, the one that's doing the shechita. Yeah. There was an opinion that held that the owner can mess up a sacrifice. And there was all shaila on that by the Saita, that if the owner can mess up the sacrifice, and how's it going to prove? The owner can have the woman who's the owner can have other thoughts and ruin the sacrifice. It said that it won't prove anything. There was this whole complication. According to that one opinion that says an owner who's not involved in the service, his thoughts can, or her thoughts. But that's not the classic opinion.
So this Mishnah seems to be saying that there is a punishment. You have to bring a carbon for making something Pigel.
No.
Isn't it?
I don't think so. I think there's saying it's someone that eats the Pigel is going to be chayav karas. Elu dvarim shein chayav malei mishum Pigel. The following are items where someone that eats it would not be chayav Pigel. Would not be chayav.
Okay.
It's already Pigel. They already made a Pigel, but if someone that eats it, it's not chayav Pigel. Now the reason is because this item itself has some restriction on it that the laws of Pigel don't apply to it. We'll see that in this list that Pigel needs to be something. It's funny because the end of the Mishnah is so much clearer than the beginning of the Mishnah. The end of the Mishnah is going to tell me that Pigel only applies to something that has a matir. That means talking about the flesh. And it had a matir, something that permits it, which is the sprinkling of the blood. Then if someone eats the flesh, so the flesh was permitted by the blood being sprinkled. But let's say the blood itself, or let's say, here we start off like this. HaKaimetz. The kaimetz is the scoop that's in the mincha that allows the rest of the mincha to be eaten. What about the kaimetz itself? The kaimetz itself doesn't have a mater. The kaimetz is the mater, how Rashi puts it. The kaimetz is the part that allows it to be eaten. So there's no piggle if someone eats that kaimetz.
So the owner's generally not the one that's
The owner, it's usually the owner, but it could be other people, owner and other people. Sacrifices are either entirely burnt, like an oila, elevation is always burnt, or it could be a chatas, it's eaten by the kainim, or it could be like a shlamim, it's eaten by the family and the owner. And
By the way, could you please point to the Rashi that says talking is like
yeah. Actually, I underlined it in my other Gemara, so just 1 second. You have to go back to Mem Aleph Amid Beis.
Mem Aleph Amid Beis.
And if you take a look at the Rashi, it's in the skinny lines, but towards the end of them, about 3/4 down. So the Rashi starts Kigain Shenasa Nasa Kaimetz B'Machshava.
I have to find it. What's the first word on the line?
I'm using a different Gemara, so I'm not sure. First word on the line of Rashi by me is Machshava de Kachim.
Okay.
Moitzi Bepeh. Who?
V'kol machshava de kedushim motzi v'peh. Who?
That's what Rashi adds in, that whenever we say the word machshava by kachim, we're actually referring to speech. And then I have a note here at Tesvav, at least by me, it's a note that sends me back to Tosfos on Daf Beis Amud Aleph.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You mentioned it when we were learning Daf Beis.
It could be. That's machlekes. It depends if they had to do smicha. If it's a sacrifice that they have to lean on, then they have to be present. Sometimes if shliach does bring it, then I don't think the smicha done by a shliach. I think that was the rule. Yeah. Okay. Now it says like this. So the kaimetz, which doesn't have something else that's mater, it's mater itself. If someone goes and eats the kaimetz, there's no kares on that. But hakteres, same as with ketores, there's nothing else that's matir that's permitting the ketores. The ketores is you put it on and that's it. There's no other thing that allows it. The halavaina is the frankincense. Also, it's the same category. Minchas kayanim, minchas kayan mashiach. Okay. The rule is that when a kayan brings a mincha, it's entirely burnt. So it's similar to the kaimetz. It's like just one big kaimetz. It doesn't have anything else that's permitting it. Usually, by a regular mincha, the kaimetz is burnt and then the rest of the mincha is eaten. Over here, a kayan, kol minchas kayan kol tir. Whenever a kayan brings a mincha, it's entirely burnt. So it doesn't have any matter. And the same as with kayan mashiach. Now, this is referring to the chaviti kayan gadol, which is also burnt. Every day, the kayan gadol brought a sacrifice, brought a meal offering. Divrei Reb Meir. This is the words of Reb Meir. The Chachamim say, "Af haboim ima behema." I'm sorry, I missed something. I missed the main word. V'hadam v'nesachim. The blood has the same thing. V'nesachim haboim b'fnei atzman. I missed that. Nesachim are the wine or oil that comes on its own. A person can actually pledge the nesachim that's usually brought together with the sacrifice, you can say, I'm just bringing it on its own, just like a person can pledge wood to the mizbeach. You can also pledge just the oil, wine. All right, Reviasehin lapar, Shlishasin, Viniskehem, Minchasam, Viniskehem lapar, Shlishasrin lapar, Shlishasrin layl. There's all of these the amounts that come together with each type of animal. So that comes on its own. It could come on its own, and it could also come together with an animal. Reb Meir says that if it's coming on its own, so then there's nothing that's matter. If, according to Reb Meir, if it's coming together with a sacrifice, because you pledged the sacrifice and that's what comes along, so then sort of like if you eat your meal, you get to have the dessert. So the eating the meal, bringing the sacrifice permits the nesachim. So it does have a mater. If it has a mater, then it has the laws of pigel. But if it's coming on its own, then there's nothing that's matter. There's no sacrifice here. However, the Chachamim say, the Chachamim say, even if it's coming together with an animal, you're still not chai because of pigel. And the explanation for that is that since you're able to bring it on its own, so it's not considered like the carbon, like the zevach is being matered. There's two possibilities here with bringing on its own. One is that you literally bring it on its own. You didn't even bring any sacrifice. The other one is that you did bring a sacrifice, but you didn't have the nesachim ready at that time. So you decided to bring the nesachim up to 10 days later. It says you can bring it even 10 days later. I don't know if that's a limitation of 10 days or if it means even 10 days. So when even though you had a sacrifice before, but because you don't have to bring it exactly on the same day, so you could bring it later, which means that it has its independence from the sacrifice. Like shemen, shel mitzayra. This is the oil that's brought together with the guilt offering of the mitzayra in this purification process. Is a carbon asham that the mitzayra brings, and the blood of the asham is put on his thumbs, big toe, and his big finger, and then the oil is placed on the same spot where the blood of the asham was placed. Now, if someone had thoughts of pigel by the lake shemen, yes, it doesn't mean he had thoughts by the carbon. Yes, he had thoughts by the carbon, and then we're asking if the oil is going to become pigel because of the thoughts by the carbon. Yeah, that's what we're saying. That's Rashi spells it out. If he had thoughts by the carbon, so we say that the loig, the measurement of oil, does not become pigel. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever it is. Yeah.
What does it mean the Kohen Gadol did it in Mechatzis Babeker or Mechatzis Baerev?
That was the carbon, the Minchas Chavitin. There was a special carbon that it was brought either by a Kohen being inaugurated or by a Kohen Gadol every single day that he's around. He has to bring this mincha, half in the morning, half in the afternoon. And it was not. It was not.
And it's not matir.
It's sorry?
It's not considered matir.
It has no matir. Matir means that when you bring this part of it, the rest of it can be eaten. That's what a matir. When you do this, then the rest is allowed. Okay. But here, because it's entirely burnt, there is
burnt. Even if it was 2 times, it's still 1.
Yeah. It's the fact that it's 2, it doesn't make that. Usually, if you have 2 parts to it, means one is this, you do this to it, and the other part is eaten. That's not what's going on here. This, you just break it in half and you burn them both, one in the morning, one after. Yeah. So what we're saying now is that even though it comes together with the oil comes together with the asham, but Let's take a look. Like Shimon Shal Mitzvah, Reb Shimon Aimer Ein Chayav L'Shem Pigel. Reb Shimon holds is Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. He holds that you're not Chayav Pigel for this, probably because it's independent. You could actually bring it 10 days later. You don't have to bring it on the same day. And Reb Meir Aimer Chayav Malav Mishum Pigel. Reb Meir says you are Chayav. If you bring it together, you're Chayav. Not if you bring it on a different day, but if you do bring it together, then it's considered together. So that's similar to what Reb Meir said about the Nesachim as well. He said only if it's brought independently will it not be piggled, the Nesachim. Right, same opinion. Shadam, Reb Meir explains, Shadam Asham Matire, because the blood of the Asham is what allows the oil to be burnt, or to be, not to be burnt, to be eaten. When the application of the blood of the Asham is done, then the oil is allowed. Now this is the end of the Mishnah. You get the rule. Anything that has a matirin, that has a permitter, yeah, is that the word that they use? A permitter. So bein la'adam bein lemizbeach, whether it permits it to be eaten by man, whether it permits it to be burnt on the altar, chayav alav mishum pigel, chayav for pigel. Ha'oila, what's the oila? The oila is entirely burnt. Maybe the oila should be exactly the same, like what we're saying here, like the kaimetz and the levina, that there's no pigel by them. It says no, because by the oila, dama materes besar lemizbeach. What allows you to then put the flesh on the altar is the sprinkling of the blood. It's not that you take the whole animal and just throw it on the altar.
What was the translation of permitter? Is that Hebrew?
The permitter is the English word for matir. Matir is the Hebrew word. Matir means to permit. Matir. Yeah. So the blood is put on the altar. The blood is applied to the altar, and then afterwards you can put the flesh on the altar. And then afterwards the skin, the hide, goes to the kainim. Oila sa'if has the same thing, even though it's done with there's nothing that's eaten from it, but nevertheless the blood, dama mater special mizbech, it's done with the fingernail, and then the flesh is then burnt on the altar. Chata sa'if is dama mater special kainim, the blood that's put on the altar, right, squeezed out on the altar. The flesh is then permitted to be eaten by the kainim. Param Nisrafim. What about these sacrifices that are entirely burnt, right? The bull that's burnt, the goat that's burnt. It's the blood that is the permitter that allows them then to go and be burnt. Okay, the pasuk by shlamim, the pasuk of pigel, is said by the carbon shlamim. Shimon says we see from that it has to be very similar to a shlamim. It has to go on the outer altar in order for the laws of pigel to apply. That's the comparison to shlamim. Okay, we'll see some other opinions about that. But
so to be clear, because there's a second process that could be materit, therefore it's kosher and it becomes pigel. Whereas if there wasn't a materin and it didn't allow it to continue, then it wasn't kosher, so then it's not pigel.
Yeah, but it's not. You're adding in the word. It's not kosher. That's not perfectly accurate. What it means is that you don't have a second process. That this first process permits the second part. Rather, the entire thing is just one process. Not that it's not kosher. There is only one process here. There's no two steps. The kaimetz or the minchas kayim, let's say, it's entirely burnt. That's all it is. It's just one step. It needs to have two steps in order for it to become pigel. And the first step allows the second step to happen. Step one, step two. That's the laws of
Not the second step makes the first step.
Not the second step makes the first step. It could be actually in the second step as well. Pigel could be in the second step. But it has to have a first step in order to become pigel. Amar Ula. Okay, Ula gives us a statement here, a little cryptic, and then we have to go in circles trying to figure out what he means. So Amar Ula says, Kaimetz pigel shehelo al gambi mizbeach. A kaimetz of pigel that was brought onto the altar. Someone did a scoop. He had thoughts of when he's going to burn it or when he's going to eat the mincha. And he brings it onto the altar, which that's where it's supposed to go, by the way. So it says paka pigulai mimenu. The pigul jumps off it. Means like it's not pigul anymore. That's what it sounds like. And imacher maybe they pigul, and then it goes on and explains that if it makes other things pigul, if thoughts by the burning of the kaimetz will make the rest of the mincha pigul, then so huatzmai like kolskein, for sure its burning itself should be effective. If thoughts of making thoughts of pigul can happen, thoughts of pigul can be effective by the burning of the mincha, of the kaimetz of the mincha, then for sure the burning of the kaimetz for sure should be effective. Gemara says, "My kamar, what is Ula saying?" He started off telling me that it's not pigul when you offer it up. Then he says that it is pigul. First it starts off saying paka pigulim mimenu, and then it says if it makes pigul by burning it, then for sure it itself should be effective. So the Gemara says hachi kamar. What it means to say is as follows: Im einay miskabel. If we would say that once it's pigul, because when you did the kmitza, you had talking about that he had thoughts of pigul when he's burning it. If you have thoughts of pigul when you're burning it, and it's not considered a proper burning because you messed it up right then. Maybe achem de pigul, so then how could the rest of the mincha become pigul? It must be that the burning of the kaimetz, even though you're messing it up with the thoughts, is still effective to make the rest of it. So it's considered a proper burning of something that's going on the altar. Gemara says, "My kamashmalan, what are you trying to tell me? Are you trying to tell me idein chayavan alav mishum pigul? Are you trying to tell me that the kaimetz does not have the laws of pigul? Tanina eladvarim shein chayim mishum pigul. Akeim zvakteres balavayna minchas kaim mashiach minchas sachem adam." That was our mishnah. You're trying to tell me that there's no pigul in the kaimetz. So we learned that in the mishnah that there's no pigul in the kaimetz. Why? Because there's no mater. So what's Ula coming to tell me? Ella must be telling me dimalu la yerdu, saying that even though he had thoughts of pigul by the kaimetz. It's interesting because we were just like talking about two different things here. One is thoughts of pigul by burning the ketairas, and then the laws of pigul by eating the kaimetz. What we learned in the Mishnah is that there's no laws of pigul by eating the kaimetz. And here we're saying that if he offers up pigul shelo al gabi mizbeach, kaimetz pigul shelo al gabi mizbeach, we say it's not pigul. So what do you mean it's not pigul? Maybe it's coming to tell me that it's not pigul if you eat it, because that we learned in the Mishnah that it's not pigul if you eat it. Maybe what it's coming to tell me is that if it came off the altar, that if it went up the altar, that you don't have to take it off. Still, it's allowed to stay there. It says, that's what you want to tell me? That something that went on the altar, you don't take it off? We learned that a bunch of times. Tanina, we have a Mishnah clear. It says, Halon va'yotzi v'atami v'shnishchat chutz l'smanu v'chutz l'mkam yamal la'yerdu. We said that a sacrifice that was left overnight, that ends up on the altar, you don't take it down. A sacrifice that became impure, you don't take it down. Or let's say it was slaughtered with the intention of doing something out of its time or out of its proper place, you don't take it down. So that's exactly what we're talking about. Out of its proper time is the laws of pigul. It says you don't take it down. So Ula, who's an Amayra, does not need to come and repeat a Mishnah to us. Ella must be im yerdu yalo, that if it was taken off, that you put it back on. It says the scoop. Kaimetz is the scoop. Kmitz is the verb, and kaimetz is the noun. The kaimetz and the kmitza is the action. Or it could kaimetz could also mean an action. Kaimetz, usually kaimetz is the description of the scoop. Rather, what it's telling me is that if it came down, that you put it back up on the altar. If it came off the altar, you put it back on. There's Hanami Tanina. That's what you want to tell me. That I have a Mishnah for that as well. It says same Shemalo Layardu Kachim Yardu Layal. I'm sorry. Yardu. Shem Shemalo Layardu Kachim Yardu Layalu. So it says that you don't do that. You don't put it back up once it comes down. See in the Rashi, it says Lo Yachzer V'Yala, and then it's in parentheses. What do they say in the commentary? Do they say that you bring it back up or you don't bring it back up? Just as the law is that once they went up, they should not be taken down. So too, once they came down, they should not be brought up again. What then does Ula mean to inform us? So you don't have any note on this at all. It's just such an interesting piece in Rashi. It says, Ella ahani pigia, the what does it mean that it like pops off it? It means that if it came down after it was brought up. Now there's two versions. One version says you bring it back up. Another version says you don't bring it back up. Okay.
It looks like Shita Mekabetza says what? You erase Tevis im Elu Lo Yardu Nimchak. Hey, or Yodla, no, Anami Nimchak. Something going on.
Yeah, Nimchak means you erase the word lie. If you erase the word lie, then it says that you put it back on the altar. But the text says that you don't put it back on. The Gemara says.
Well, the Rashi says the loy goes in an earlier spot, maybe. Okay.
Okay. So our question is, what is Ula telling us when he says that paka pigulim mimena, the pigul pops off it, like jumps off it? So the Gemara says, leitzricha. What does the Gemara mean to say? What does Ula mean to say that it would only be necessary? If Ula means to say that you have to put it back on the altar, and I have a Mishnah that says that you don't put it back on the altar, so how could Ula be telling that you put it back on the altar? It says that if it started to be burnt, then you can put it back on the altar. But if it wasn't burnt at all, if the fire didn't catch onto it, then you don't bring it back up. It's a problem with this kaimitz because you had thoughts of pigul, and then it ended up falling off the fire down off the altar. So do you put it back up? So it says it depends. If it started to get scorched from the altar, then you put it back up. It already started to get burnt. You finish it. Otherwise, you just leave it off.
2-second rule.
Yeah, 2-second rule. Yeah. It's considered already the bread of the altar. Okay, so the Gemara says if that's what he wants to say, that's what Ula is saying. That paka, what does he mean by paka pigula mimeno? That we don't consider it pigul anymore. Is that you put it back on the altar? It says Hanami Amra Ula Chadazimno. It happens to be that Ula had said this already one time. Amra Ula Leishanu Ela Shalei Mashla Bemar Aval Mashla Bemar Yalu. When does the Mishnah say that you don't put it back on? That's if the fire did not catch onto it. But if the fire did catch onto it, then you put it back on. So Ula said this already. But I just figured out what Rashi was going on in the Rashi, the two versions. Ula is telling me a chiddush. The Mishnah tells me not like that. So Ula would be telling me that if it goes off the fire, you have to put it back on. So that's why if Rashi is explaining to me Ula, then it would be you take the word lay out. If Ula is telling me, Ella, what would the pekia work that the pigul pops off it? That would be that if it falls off, that you bring it back on. Now the Mishnah says that you don't, but that he's describing Ula, so that's why they take the word lie. The Mishnah actually says lie. But Ula would be saying Yalu, that you bring it back up. And the Mishnah says that you don't. So Ula explained that it has to do with if the fire caught onto it once. He said, but Ula taught me that somewhere else. The Gemara says, the Gemara answers that Mao de Tema, I could have said, Hani Mili, when do we say that if the fire caught onto it, then you bring it back up? That's Aver de Mechaber. That's only if it's a limb of the animal, one of the organs or a limb of the animal, that when part of it is burnt, the rest of it is still attached to that burnt part. It's considered like part of the meal of the mizbeach. And if it fell off, you put it back on for it to be finished being burnt. Aval kaimetz de mifras, but the kaimetz, which is a flour offering, which every piece of that is considered separated. So just because there's one part of it which is burnt, a malai, I would say that you don't put it on. Just because a part of it is burnt doesn't mean that the piece that's immediately next to it is considered part of that kaimetz, because it's just separated pieces of flour with oil. It's not considered one thing like a limb of an animal, right? That you would say that, oh, it's considered still the lechem of the mizbeach. Kamash Malan, Ula is coming to teach me that by the kaimetz we say the same thing. That even though that once part of it is burnt, then you have to put the kaimetz back on.
To be lechem of the mizbeach, it has to be connected by.
That's what we would have thought. Yeah, we would have thought that it's only lechem of the mizbeach when it's considered one organ, one limb. But over here, where it's just meal, like crumbling flour, so I would say that it's not considered connected.
Right.
And the part that got burnt, okay, but the rest of it is not part of the bread of the mizbeach. So Ula comes to tell me the chiddush that it is. Amar Rav Achai. A lot of times when we have Rav Achai, we think that that's the goyin, Rav Achai goyin, like Taisus in Ksubas says. Anyway, Rav Achai says Hilkach. Therefore, if you're going to tell me that the kaimetz is considered all attached, Hai kaimetz pigel, the palge machas aara, palge aski ma'aracha. Half of it was on the ground; it must have fallen off, and half of it is on the altar. Umashta bayar. Masikna leilakuli, you bring the entire thing up, l'chatchila. You bring it up. Considered one piece. Okay. Next Gemara says like this: Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yitzchak says, "Name of Rabbi Yechanan, pigel v'aneiser v'atame k'shel negam bezmeach pakes mehem." The pigel, the offering that had thoughts that something was going to be done out of its allotted time, or nicer means that it actually was left over out of its allotted time, left over literally too long, not thoughts of leaving over, but it was left over. Tameh means that it became tameh, but it was put on the altar. So pakei yisur mehem, the prohibition goes off it. The prohibition of pigel goes off. So Rashi says, he divides this into two categories. The first category is that when it comes to the pigel, if it came off the altar, we put it back on. When it comes to the nicer and tameh, what we say is that the person that eats it won't be chayiv. I don't know why Rashi has to do that. Why does Rashi have to divide it up? Maybe it means also that the one that eats the pigel won't be chayiv once it's put on the altar. Anyway, whatever the case is, Amar Rav Chisda says, I guess to Rabbi Yitzchak, who's quoting Rabbi Yechanan, he says, Mari Dichi, the master of this law, Mizbeach mikvah tara. The way you're putting this is that the Mizbeach is like a mikvah, and there was this meat or whatever became tameh, and now you put it on the Mizbeach, and you're telling me that now it's tar, now it becomes pure. Amar Reb Zera says, Shemash lebemar. After it becomes burnt by the altar, yeah, then it's then you're allowed to eat it after it's burnt. then it goes to a different category of nicer. No, you're mixing two things. Pigul is when he has thoughts of leaving it, and he has the loss of karas. If he doesn't have thoughts of leaving it, but he just does leave it, so then it's nicer. That's in the process of bringing the sacrifice. If he has two problems in the process of bringing, but once it becomes pigul, it doesn't go out of being pigul. That's actually what really Rav Chisda is asking, like how do the laws change afterwards? Because you put it on the altar. He says, well, mashla b'ma'ar, once it gets burnt. So the Gemara asks.
This is about intention, right?
Not necessarily. This is actually, if it became tamei, the meat became tamei, and then you put it on the altar and it gets burnt, and then someone eats it. So it's not considered that he ate meat that was sacrificial meat that was tamei.
So he did it on purpose.
Yeah. Maser Rabbi Yitzchak bar Bisna. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Bisna asks on this statement of Rabbi Yechanan that the Isser, the prohibition goes off once it's on the altar. Usually, when a person is tamei and he eats from a sacrifice, there's Isser karas. So he quotes a, I don't know if this is a Mishnah. You know if this is a Mishnah? Anyway, it says that others say that how do we, when he quotes the pasuk, that others say regarding the pasuk, it says v'tumasai alav. Let's look this up. It's Vayikra Zayin Chav. What happens in this pasuk is that there's the pasuk uses a pronoun, and the tumah is on him or on it. Now we don't know if it's him or it. Vayikra Zayin Chav. No, I don't mean because it's a they. I don't mean that. We don't know it. We don't know if it's referring to the person or referring to the meat.
It says v'hanefesh.
Nefesh. You're going to see. We're talking about the person. There's a person that's going to eat it. Zayin Chav. It says v'hanefesh asher teichol basar mizebach hashlamim asher l'Hashem. If a person will eat from the flesh of a shlamim sacrifice, which is for Hashem, v'tumasai olav, and the tumah is on him or it, doesn't tell me. So that soul is cut off. Is karas. Now, where is the karas? Is the person tamei and he eats it, or is it karas when the meat is tamei and he eats it? So achir maimrim, it says v'tumasai olav. The tumah is on him. What does it mean? The tumah is on him. He's reading it. The tumah is still on him. That we're talking about the misha tumah parachas minute. It has to be something referring to something that the tumah could have left him. Tumah say alav, and the tumah is upon him. That means that it could have gone off, but it didn't go off yet. How could it have gone off if he went to the mikveh? But meat, you can't put meat in the mikveh and make it tar. You can put a vessel in the mikveh and make it tar, but you can't make food that became tamei tar. So his proof that the pasuk is talking about that the person is tamei, not the meat is tamei, is from the fact that a person can go to the mikveh and the meat can't go to the mikveh. He says yatsa basar shein tumah parachas mimenu, but the meat there's no way of getting the tumah off. So when it says tumah say alav, the tumah is still on him. It's referring to the person because it could have gone off, but it didn't go off. But if you accept Rabbi Yechanan's opinion over here, that once you put it on the altar, then it becomes purified. We could get it off through the fire, and then you lose the whole pshat in the pasuk. Rava says the pasuk is
the person.
About that it has to be the person because the pasuk is talking about that the tumah goes off through the mikveh, not through the fire. The Gemara asks on Rava, it says midi mikveh ksiv. Do you see the mikveh in the pasuk? Does it say mikveh anywhere in the pasuk? It doesn't say mikveh. You threw that in like it doesn't. There's no mention of mikveh. Elam Rav Papa says the basar shlamim askinan. We're talking about the meat of a shlamim. Leichazi lakrava. The shlamim doesn't go on the altar. Remember the pasuk? It says a soul that's going to eat from a carbon shlamim, and the tumah is on it. The tumah is still on it, which means the tumah is on him. Because if it was talking about the meat, you can't get the meat to become tar by putting it on the altar because the meat doesn't go on the altar by your shlomim. The meat is eaten. Ravina gives another teretz. He says, "V'tumah sayalav." The tumah is on it. B'misha tumah perachs menach shushalim. That's referring to something that the tumah may not be on it, even though he's still whole. How does that happen if it's still intact? If it's still whole, that's only a person that could go to the mikveh. Yatsa basar shein tumah the yatsa basar davar shein tumah perachas k'shushalim el k'shuchaser. Because the meat, the only way that it becomes pure was when it starts to get scorched or burnt by the altar. Then it could become purified. But we're talking about something that can become purified even when it's fully intact.
Does it
Okay.
have to be cooked all the way through?
No, we're talking about even if the one end of it is scorched, we say the entire thing was purified. So, but the fact is that part of it got scorched, it's not fully intact. Ufa, let's go back to explain this. The pasuk says, "V'tumah sayalav." The tumah is on him or on it. The Gemara says, "Tumah saguf hakasim medaber." We're talking about the tumah is on him, and that's when we're going to say that there's going to be kares. Ata aimer b'tumah saguf. You say that the tumah is on the body. Maybe we're talking about that the meat became tameh. See, there's two possibilities. A person's not allowed to eat sacrificial meat that became tameh. A person's not allowed to eat sacrificial meat when he's tameh. And we have a verse that says that if he eats from the meat and it's tameh or he's tameh, there's kares. But which one is it talking about? Where's the kares? Is it on when the meat's tameh or when he's tameh? So the Gemara says it's referring to when he's tameh, not when the meat is tameh. It says, how do you know? Maybe it's talking about when the meat is tameh. So listen to this. Nemar kan to masai. Nemar la'alan to masai, alav, or bay. Ma la'alan to masagufa kasam medam, raf kam to masagufa kasam benamer. So, it says, "V'hanefesh asher toichal." Toichal means the soul that toichal means that she will eat. Soul that she will eat. It doesn't say asher yoichal. Yoichal would mean that he will eat. Toichal means that she will eat. And then it says v'tumasai, in his tuma. It doesn't say v'tumasa, in her tuma. Tumasa would mean her tuma. It's v'tumasai, in his tuma. So the person is being referred to. It's gonna make you crazy. The person is being referred to in feminine, because it's referring to the soul
and the animal.
When it comes to the tumah, it refers to the tumah is on it. The possessive is a masculine. Tumasai, his tumah, right? Alav doesn't say is on him. So b'tumah saguf diber v'lei b'tumah basar. I'm reading in the Rashi. So it goes like this. Yein element to masbas, nemerkan to masai, nemelalan to masai, alan to masaguf, and to masaguf. Where's the second to masai? Gabi bias amikdash. The midbar yotes. I have another pasuk in 1913. It says Kolanegeya. Yeah. Anyone that touches a corpse of a human being that died and does not ritually purify himself and then enters the temple courtyard has made God's tabernacle ritually impure, so his soul will be cut off from Israel. And it goes on, being that the sprinkling water was not sprinkled on him, he remains ritually impure, and even if he immersed in the ritual pool, his ritual impurity remains with him. It says, Oid tumasai boy. the tumah is still on him. Over here, it's clearly talking about the person being tummy. So what we're doing now is we're doing this comparison. It says tumasai
Is the person.
but it says tumasai in Bamidbar. It's talking about when he enters the temple when he's tummy. It says tumasai by the eating of the sacrifice. So it says the same word. Just like over there, it's talking about tumasaguf. So too over here, it's talking about tumasaguf. Gemara goes on. Rabbi Yossi says, it says kachim in a plural. It says, calls it a shlamim, zavach shlamim. Remember tumah b'lashon yachid. It says the tumah in a singular. It doesn't say v'tumah sam, their tumah. It says tumasai, his tumah. So tumasaguf akasim medaber. If it would have been talking about the sacrifice, it would have said it differently. Rabbi says, the pasuk says v'achal, and he ate. That tells me b'tumasaguf akasim medaber. Where did it say v'achal? It says right after this pasuk. Nefesh asher toichal. That's she ate. Oh, afterwards, nefesh ki siga b'chol tamei b'tumas adam and behema v'achal mi b'sar zevach hashlam v'nechrusa nefeshi ma'ameh. Yeah, we'll explain it later. Problem is that you have two psukim here. Interesting. If you take a look at these psukim, they seem to be repetitive. Pasuk chaf and pasuk chaf aleph seems to be repetitive. Okay. Acherim amru. Others say v'tumasay olav. The tumah is on him. So this is what we were quoting earlier, where we said, "Mi shetuma perachas meni yatzabasa shein tuma perachas meimenu." Has to be something that the tumah could have gone off, and we're saying the tumah did not go off. The tumah is still on him. Okay. Yeah.
Mikveh itself be tumah?
No, mikveh doesn't become tumah.
So even like an arm falls in there or something, you just take it out?
Yeah.
How do you say lashon rabim for the woman? Let's say they used the lashon nekeva, right? But whatever the word was, tachla, I don't remember. But the point is, all the cases when she brings a carbon, it becomes lashon rabim. So you could use the vav into masai. All of those kind of cases.
I don't remember. Moshe would help me out, but there's something a plural future.
But they're referred to as they, even for feminine.
Of which word?
Teichlena? Is there a word like that?
Yeah, sure.
What would teichlena be? That
They. Yeah, well, it's tochlena. It's like future. You, they will eat.
You, they will. Either you plural or they plural.
Yeah. Yochlena is tochlena is for the female. Yeah.
Right. Others. Right.
But then it would exclude things. It's more general.
Like anything.
Okay.
Okay, I wrote the Torah. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, let's take a look. Amar Mar. The master taught, but this is what we learned in the Brisa. Rabbi Yomer, it says v'achal. It says in the following pasuk, it says, and he will eat. So that means b'tumas haguf hakas medar. We're talking about impurity of the body, not impurity of the meat. My mashma, where do you get this from? So it goes like this. Amar Rava. Rava says, Kol krad le mefarsh le Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdumi v'chol masnis le mefarsh le Rav Ziri le mefarsha. Any pasuk that Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdumi doesn't interpret, or in any brisa that's not explained by Rav Ziri is not explained. I guess those are the best teachers. Pachiyam Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdumi explained the pasuk. He explains it like this. Hayul pasach hakasav b'lashon nekeva. It starts off with a feminine. It says, this we're not in the same pasuk now. Now we're in the pasuk right after this. It says nefesh ki siga. It doesn't say nefesh ki yiga. A soul that will touch a corpse. Right? So it says ki siga means that she will touch. And pasuk hakas b'lashon nekeva. Siyam b'lashon nekeva. And then it finishes with lashon nekeva. It says v'nichrasa hanefesh hahi mea mea. Actually, it says nefesh, but we read it as nefesh. That soul will be cut off. V'nichrisa means she will be cut off. V'lashon zacher be'emtza. But in the middle, it talks about he will eat. It says v'achal. That's a lashon. It's masculine. Must be b'tumas agufakas medaber. So even though it starts off with an akeva, but because in the middle it's lashon zacher, so that takes over. Okay, now the brisa. I think we should leave this. But what the Gemara is about to do is it's going to tell us what Rava meant that the brisa needs to be explained by Rav Ziri. If it's not explained, then we don't understand it. Okay, let's leave it over here.
What does it mean when he says acherim oimrim?
In a Mishnah, that would mean Reb Meir. In a brisa, it's not so clear that it's Reb Meir.
But it's a shvach. It's a shvach thing. It's like, why didn't they say?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's the reason why the Gemara in Hirius told us that it doesn't say Reb Meir because Rebbe didn't put they didn't want Reb Shimon ben Gamliel because Reb Meir had a conflict with the house of the Nasi with Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, so
they didn't want to embarrass him. And
they changed his name. They didn't put him in by his name. That's
yeah, but then they put it back.
Thanks.
Somebody else
allowed him back in. It doesn't mean that the teachings were changed.
He has humility, so
Okay.
he doesn't care.
Kol tov. Have a good day.
Maybe.